The medical station Sanctuary 7 floated in the darkness of space like a giant white flower. Its petals were actually sections of the station, each one dedicated to different medical needs. Dr. Kriksta moved through the main examination hall with practiced ease. Her 6 legs carried her smoothly across the polished floor, while her upper arms checked data pads and her lower arms adjusted medical equipment. She had been the chief medical officer here for 12 cycles, treating dozens of species from across the galaxy. Today was supposed to be historic. The humans had finally arrived. Kriksta had studied the preliminary data about humans with great interest. They came from a planet called Earth, a world that seemed unremarkably average in most ways. Medium gravity, standard atmospheric composition, normal temperature ranges. The humans themselves appeared fragile compared to many species. No natural armor, no venom, no redundant organs. They seemed like they would be easy patients to treat. The doors to the examination hall slid open and Lisa Chen walked in. She was one of the human medical specialists assigned to help with the transition. Kriksta had worked with her for 3 days now and found her pleasant and knowledgeable. Lisa had brown eyes that seemed to take in everything, and a calm way of speaking that put patients at ease. "Good morning, Dr. Kriksta," Lisa said with a smile. "Good morning," Kriksta replied, her translator rendering the words in perfect human English. "Are we prepared for today's physicals?" "Almost ready. The crew from the survey mission should be here within the hour." Lisa looked at the array of medical equipment. "I've been meaning to ask, what's the standard procedure for treating infections here?" Kriksta gestured to a wall display that showed various treatment options. "It depends on the species, of course, but generally, we use broad-spectrum antimicrobial agents combined with cellular stabilizers. The key is to support the body's natural processes while gently eliminating the pathogen. Most species respond well to this approach." Lisa nodded slowly but said nothing. Kriksta noticed a strange expression cross the human's face, something that might have been concern or perhaps doubt. Before she could ask about it, the doors opened again. Jake Morrison walked into the examination hall looking tired. He was a tall human male with short brown hair and a boyish face that made him look younger than his actual age. He had been part of the survey team exploring a nearby moon for the past week. As he approached, Kriksta noticed he was moving stiffly and his skin had a slightly different color than normal, more pale with a grayish undertone. "Hey, Doc," Jake said, attempting a smile. "I think I picked up something on the moon. Been feeling pretty rough since yesterday." Lisa immediately moved to his side, her expression shifting to professional concern. "What are your symptoms?" "Headache, body aches, feeling cold even though I'm sweating." "The usual flu stuff, I guess," Jake shrugged. "Probably just need some rest and maybe some antibiotics." Kriksta activated her medical scanner and passed it over Jake's body. The readings made her mandibles twitch with surprise. His internal temperature was elevated, reading at 39 degrees Celsius. For most species, such a temperature would indicate severe system failure. His heart rate was accelerated and his white blood cell count was significantly elevated. "This is concerning," Kriksta said. "Your body appears to be in significant distress. We need to begin treatment immediately." She prepared a standard broad-spectrum treatment, the same mixture she had used successfully on 50 different species. It would support his cellular function while gently reducing the infection. She loaded the injector and approached Jake. Lisa stepped forward, her hand raised. "Wait, Dr. Kriksta. Before you give him that, can I see what's in it?" Kriksta displayed the chemical composition on her datapad. Lisa's eyes widened as she read through the list. "This is going to suppress his immune response?" "Yes, of course. His immune system is clearly overreacting to the infection. These compounds will calm it down and allow his body to heal naturally." "No," Lisa said firmly. "You can't give him that. His immune system is supposed to be doing what it's doing. That's how human bodies fight infections." Kriksta felt a wave of confusion, but his temperature is dangerously elevated. His white blood cells are multiplying at an alarming rate. This is clearly a catastrophic immune response. Jake coughed and sat down on the examination table. "Can somebody please just give me something? I feel like I've been hit by a truck." Lisa turned to Kriksta with an urgent expression. "His fever is high but not dangerous yet. Humans can survive temperatures up to 41 degrees Celsius. The elevated temperature is actually helping kill the pathogen, and the white blood cells are supposed to multiply. They're attacking the infection." "That makes no sense," Kriksta said. "Raising body temperature damages healthy cells along with pathogens. It's inefficient and dangerous. For your species, maybe. But humans evolved differently. Our immune systems are aggressive. Very aggressive. Krixta looked at her scanner readings again. Jake's body was essentially at war with itself. Every indicator suggested he was dying. But Lisa seemed completely calm about it. Against her better judgment, Krixta decided to wait. She would monitor Jake closely and intervene if his condition worsened. Over the next 4 hours, Jake's temperature climbed higher. It reached 39.5 degrees. Krixta watched the readings with growing alarm. She called in 2 other doctors. Both experienced physicians from different species. They all agreed that Jake should be in critical care receiving emergency treatment. But Lisa remained calm. She made Jake drink water regularly and had him rest on the examination table. She checked his vitals every 30 minutes and seemed satisfied with what she saw, even as Krixta's medical training screamed that the patient was dying. His white blood cell count is still rising, Dr. Velnak announced, his crystalline form pulsing with concerned colors. This is beyond anything I've seen. His body is producing millions of aggressive cells every minute. Billions, actually, Lisa corrected. The human bone marrow can produce about 100 billion white blood cells per day when fighting an infection. The number was staggering. Krixta tried to imagine that level of cellular production and couldn't. The energy requirements alone should have killed Jake. His body should have collapsed from the effort. By the 6th hour, Jake's fever peaked at 40 degrees Celsius. His body was covered in sweat and he was shivering despite Lisa wrapping him in warming blankets. The medical staff stood around his bed in stunned silence, waiting for the inevitable collapse. It never came. Instead, something remarkable happened. Jake's temperature began to drop. Slowly at first, then more steadily. Within an hour, it had fallen to 38.5 degrees. His white blood cell count remained elevated but stopped climbing. His heart rate began to normalize. "What's happening?" Krixta asked. "He's winning," Lisa said simply. "His immune system has identified the pathogen and is destroying it." The fever was to create an environment where his white blood cells could work more efficiently. Now that they've gained the upper hand, his body is returning to normal. By the 12th hour, Jake sat up and asked for food. His color had returned to normal and he claimed to feel much better. By the 18th hour, his temperature was back to the human baseline of 37 degrees Celsius. His white blood cell count was still elevated but trending downward. Krixta ran every diagnostic scan she had. All of them confirmed the same impossible thing. Jake had fought off an alien pathogen that his body had never encountered before. He had done it in less than a day, and he had done it by essentially waging war inside his own body. "I don't understand," Krixta admitted. "This shouldn't be possible. The energy expenditure, the cellular damage from the elevated temperature, the aggressive immune response. He should be exhausted for weeks. He should have permanent damage," Lisa smiled. "He'll be tired for a couple of days, but he'll be fine. This is just how human immune systems work. We evolved on a planet with extremely aggressive pathogens. Our bodies learned to fight back just as aggressively." Jake stood up from the examination table and stretched. "Can I get some breakfast? I'm starving." "You just survived what would kill most species in the galaxy," Dr. Velnak said in wonder. "And you want breakfast?" "Well, yeah. Fighting off an infection takes a lot of energy." Jake grinned. "My body's been working overtime. It needs fuel." Krixta watched Jake walk to the station's dining area with Lisa. Her mind was reeling. Everything she knew about medicine, everything she had learned treating 50 different species had been turned upside down in 18 hours. Human bodies didn't just fight infections. They weaponized themselves, turning their own biological processes into instruments of war against invaders. She thought about the standard treatments she had almost given Jake. Any of them would have suppressed his immune system at the exact moment it needed to be strongest. She would have killed him by trying to save him using methods that worked perfectly well on every other species she knew. Dr. Velnak approached her, his colors showing deep confusion. "Chief Medical Officer, we need to completely revise our protocols for human patients. Everything we know is wrong when applied to them." "I know," Krixta said quietly. "Call a meeting of the entire medical staff." The conference room was packed with medical professionals from across the galaxy. Krixta had called an emergency meeting of the entire medical council, and every doctor on Sanctuary 7 had responded. The circular room accommodated dozens of different body types, from the floating gas-form ethereals to the massive rocky titans who barely fit through the doors. All of them had come to learn about the humans. Lisa stood at the front of the room next to Peter Grant, a human biologist who had arrived that morning specifically for this presentation. Peter was a middle-aged man with graying hair and glasses that kept sliding down his nose. He looked nervous facing the assembly of alien doctors, but his voice was steady when he spoke. "Thank you all for coming," Peter began. "I know what happened with Jake yesterday has raised a lot of questions. Dr. Kriksta has asked us to explain how human immune systems work. I want to start by saying that what you witnessed was completely normal for us. Jake had a minor infection, and his body dealt with it the way human bodies always do." A murmur ran through the assembled doctors. Dr. Velnak's crystalline form pulsed with skeptical colors. "What we witnessed was biological warfare on a cellular level. You call this normal?" "For humans, yes." Lisa activated the holographic display in the center of the room. An image of the human body appeared, rotating slowly. Human beings evolved on a planet with extremely diverse and aggressive microbial life. Earth has millions of species of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. Many of them can cause disease. Our bodies developed equally aggressive defenses. The hologram zoomed in to show the circulatory system. Lisa highlighted the white blood cells moving through the bloodstream. "These are just some of our immune cells. We have many different types, each with specialized functions. Some identify threats, some attack directly, some create antibodies, some remember previous infections." "How many of these cells does a human body contain?" asked Dr. Thean, an insectoid physician from the hive worlds. "An average adult human has about 20 to 25 billion white blood cells at any given time," Peter said. "During an infection, that number can double or triple." The room erupted in shocked chittering, whistling, and various other sounds of disbelief. Kriksta had to call for order. "Please let them continue." Lisa waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "The fever that Jake experienced is one of our primary defense mechanisms. When our bodies detect an infection, they deliberately raise their temperature. This serves multiple purposes. First, many pathogens can't survive at higher temperatures. Second, our immune cells work more efficiently when it's warmer. Third, the heat speeds up our metabolism, allowing us to produce more immune cells faster." "But the cellular damage," Kriksta protested. "Elevated temperatures damage healthy tissue." "Our cells can tolerate much higher temperatures than most species," Peter explained. "We evolved in an environment with significant temperature variations. Our cellular proteins remain stable up to about 42 degrees Celsius. Below that threshold, the damage is minimal and temporary." The hologram shifted to show a close-up of white blood cells attacking a bacterium. The cells swarmed the invader, releasing chemicals that broke down its cell wall. Other cells arrived and literally consumed the destroyed pathogen, absorbing it completely. "This is called phagocytosis," Lisa said. "Our white blood cells engulf and digest foreign particles. But that's just one attack method. We also have cells that release toxic chemicals to kill pathogens at range. We have cells that punch holes in infected cells to destroy them before the infection spreads. And we have cells that remember every pathogen we've ever encountered." "Wait," Dr. Kriksta interrupted. "You have biological memory of diseases?" "Yes. When you encounter a pathogen for the first time, your body creates specialized cells called memory B cells and memory T cells. These cells can survive for decades, sometimes for your entire life. If you encounter the same pathogen again, these memory cells allow your immune system to respond much faster and more aggressively. That's why humans rarely get the same disease twice." The implications of this were staggering. Kriksta had treated thousands of patients over her career, and many of them had suffered from recurring infections. The idea that a body could remember and prepare for future attacks was revolutionary. "This is the basis for vaccination," Peter added. "We deliberately expose people to weakened or dead versions of pathogens. The immune system learns to recognize them and creates memory cells without the person getting seriously sick. Then, if they encounter the real pathogen later, their body is already prepared to fight it." "You deliberately infect healthy individuals?" Dr. Thean's antennae quivered with what might have been horror. "As preventative medicine? It's been one of our most successful medical interventions," Lisa said. "We've eliminated or nearly eliminated dozens of diseases that used to kill millions of people. Smallpox, polio, measles, and many others are gone or very rare because of vaccines." The hologram changed again to show inflammation. The tissue was swollen and red, filled with fluid and immune cells. This is another standard immune response, Peter explained. When tissue is damaged or infected, we increase blood flow to the area. This brings more immune cells to fight the infection and more nutrients to help healing. It also causes swelling and pain. Why pain? Asked a Valerian doctor in the back. That seems counterproductive. The pain tells us something is wrong and makes us protect the injured area, Lisa said. It's a warning system. If you couldn't feel the pain of an injury, you might keep using that body part and make the damage worse. Peter pulled up a new image showing the layers of human skin. We also have physical barriers against infection. Our skin is actually our largest organ. It's multiple layers of tough cells that most pathogens can't penetrate. We constantly shed dead skin cells, taking any bacteria or viruses on the surface with them. Our skin also produces antimicrobial compounds and maintains an acidic pH that inhibits bacterial growth. And when the skin is broken? Krixta asked. Our blood clots rapidly to seal the wound. The clotting process involves dozens of proteins that work in a cascade. Within minutes, we form a seal that prevents both blood loss and infection. Lisa showed a video of human blood clotting. The liquid blood transformed into a solid scab in seconds. A Titan doctor rumbled from the back of the room. What about internal pathogens? Things that get past all these defenses? That's where things get really interesting, Peter said with a slight smile. We have what's called mucous membranes lining our respiratory and digestive systems. These produce a sticky substance that traps pathogens. In our lungs, we have tiny hair-like structures called cilia that constantly wave back and forth, pushing the mucus and any trapped particles up and out of our airways. That's what coughing is for, expelling that contaminated mucus. Your bodies are in constant battle, Dr. Velnak observed, even when you're healthy. Exactly, Lisa confirmed. Our immune systems never rest. We're constantly exposed to potential pathogens. Every breath we take contains bacteria and viruses. Everything we touch has microorganisms on it. Our bodies are fighting off dozens of potential infections every single day. We just don't notice because the immune system handles it automatically. The hologram showed a comparison between a human immune response and a standard Valerian immune response. The difference was stark. Where the Valerian body gently isolated and slowly neutralized a pathogen over days or weeks, the human body launched an all-out assault within hours. This explains why your standard medical treatments would have killed Jake, Peter said seriously. Your medicines are designed to support gentle immune responses. But suppressing a human immune system during an active infection would be like disarming a soldier in the middle of a battle. Krixta felt her understanding of medicine shifting. Everything she had learned assumed that immune responses needed to be carefully controlled and moderated. But humans had evolved a completely different strategy. Their bodies didn't try to avoid the fight. They won the fight through overwhelming force. What about autoimmune disorders? Asked Dr. Thean. With such aggressive immune systems, surely you have problems with the body attacking itself. Peter and Lisa exchanged glances. Yes, we do have autoimmune diseases, Peter admitted. Sometimes our immune systems malfunction and attack healthy tissue. Conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, multiple sclerosis, and type 1 diabetes are all caused by immune dysfunction. So your aggressive immune system is dangerous even to you, Dr. Velnak said. It's a trade-off, Lisa explained. Our aggressive immune systems let us survive infections that would kill most species. But yes, sometimes they make mistakes. Sometimes they're too aggressive. Medicine is about managing that balance. A young ethereal doctor drifted forward, her gaseous form shimmering with curiosity. What about allergies? The preliminary data mentioned that humans can have severe reactions to harmless substances. Peter sighed. Allergies are essentially our immune systems overreacting to things that aren't actually threats. Pollen, certain foods, pet dander, things that won't hurt us but our bodies treat like dangerous invaders. In severe cases, the immune response itself can be life-threatening. We call it anaphylaxis. 3 weeks had passed since the medical conference, and Krixta was beginning to understand the magnitude of the task before her. She sat in her office surrounded by holographic displays showing human medical data. Each display held information that seemed to contradict everything she thought she knew about biology. Peter sat across from her, looking tired but determined. They had been working together every day, translating human medical knowledge into formats that other species could understand. The problem was that human medical terminology assumed certain biological realities that simply didn't exist elsewhere in the galaxy. So this condition, sepsis, Krixta said, highlighting a section of text. Let me make sure I understand. The immune system responds so aggressively to an infection that it starts damaging healthy organs throughout the body? That's correct, Peter confirmed. It's a systemic inflammatory response. The immune system floods the bloodstream with chemical signals and immune cells. Blood pressure drops, blood vessels leak fluid, organs start to fail. It's one of the most dangerous conditions we treat. But this is your immune system doing this, the very system meant to protect you. Yes. When the response is proportional to the threat, it works perfectly. But sometimes, especially with severe infections, the immune system overreacts and causes more damage than the infection itself. Krixta added another note to the growing list of human medical conditions that were caused by their own biology. It was a long list. And this is treated by suppressing the immune system while simultaneously fighting the infection. It's a delicate balance. We need the immune system to fight the infection, but we also need to prevent it from destroying healthy tissue. Human emergency medicine has become very sophisticated at managing this balance. A chime sounded, indicating someone at the door. Lisa entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee, a human beverage that Krixta had learned was essential to human functioning during long work sessions. She handed one to Peter and sat down. How's the database integration going? Lisa asked, slowly, Krixta admitted. We're on page 47 of Basic Immunology, and I have about 3,000 pages left to review. Every concept requires extensive explanation because our framework for understanding disease is so different. I've been working with the station's computer system to create a translation guide, Peter said. But it's challenging. Take a simple word like inflammation. For most species, inflammation indicates tissue damage that needs treatment. For humans, it's a normal part of the healing process. We need inflammation to heal properly. We're also running into problems with diagnostic tools, Lisa added. The medical scanners here are calibrated for species with much lower metabolic rates. When they scan humans, they flag everything as abnormal because we're so much more active at a cellular level. Krixta had experienced this frustration firsthand. Human baseline readings were off the charts compared to most species. Their heart rates were faster, their blood pressure was higher, their cellular activity was more intense. The station's medical equipment kept insisting that perfectly healthy humans were in critical condition. The door chimed again, and Dr. Velnak entered. His crystalline structure was pulsing with agitated colors. We have a situation. A human colonist just arrived with what he says is a minor illness, but his symptoms are concerning. What kind of symptoms? Lisa asked immediately. Respiratory distress, excessive mucus production, elevated temperature, fatigue. He's also experiencing something he called sneezing repeatedly. Peter and Lisa exchanged glances. That sounds like a common cold, Peter said. A what? A viral infection of the upper respiratory system. It's usually caused by rhinoviruses, though there are dozens of viruses that can cause similar symptoms. It's very common on Earth. Most humans get several colds per year. Dr. Velnak's color shifted to alarmed purple. Several per year? This happens regularly? It's one of the most frequent illnesses we experience, Lisa explained. The symptoms are unpleasant but rarely dangerous in healthy adults. The immune system usually clears it in about a week. This patient is producing excessive amounts of fluid from his nasal passages and coughing violently every few minutes. You consider this minor? For a cold, those are normal symptoms, Peter said. The excess mucus is the body's way of trapping and expelling the virus. The coughing and sneezing serve the same purpose, forcibly ejecting contaminated mucus from the respiratory system. Krixta stood up. We should go see this patient. What's his name? Danny Park. When they reached the isolation ward where Dr. Velnak had placed Danny, they found a young man sitting on a bed looking miserable, but not particularly concerned. His nose was red and he was holding a tissue. As they entered, he sneezed violently, then apologized. Sorry about that, Danny said, his voice slightly nasal. I didn't think they'd put me in isolation for a cold. A cold is a viral infection, Dr. Velnak said. All viral infections are quarantine situations until we can assess the contagion risk. It's just a cold, though. It's not dangerous. Lisa checked Danny's vital signs with a human-calibrated medical scanner. Slight fever, congestion, but everything else looks normal for a cold. How long have you had symptoms? Started yesterday with a sore throat. Now I've got the whole package. Runny nose, cough, headache, feeling tired. Danny sneezed again. Sorry, I can't seem to stop sneezing. That's your body trying to expel the virus, Peter explained. Each sneeze can propel droplets at speeds up to 100 miles per hour. Krixta's mandibles twitched in surprise. That seems excessive for a minor illness. The virus infects the cells lining your nasal passages and throat, Lisa said to Danny. Your immune system recognizes the infected cells and triggers inflammation to fight the infection. That's what causes the congestion and sore throat. The excess mucus production traps viral particles, and the coughing and sneezing expel them from your body. How contagious is this condition? Dr. Velnock asked nervously. Very, Peter admitted. Colds spread easily between humans through respiratory droplets. That's why we have so many of them. The viruses that cause colds mutate rapidly, so even if your immune system remembers one variant, new variants can still infect you. So humans regularly spread highly contagious viral infections to each other? Krixta was trying to process this information. As a normal part of life? We try to minimize spread by staying home when we're sick and covering our mouths when we cough or sneeze, Lisa said. But yes, respiratory viruses are very common in human populations. Our immune systems are adapted to deal with them. Danny coughed into his elbow. Can I get some cold medicine? I've got work to do, and this is making it hard to concentrate. There's no cure for the common cold, Peter told Krixta. We can treat the symptoms to make the patient more comfortable, but the infection has to run its course. The immune system will clear it naturally in about 5 to 7 days. And this happens to most humans multiple times per year? Dr. Velnock seemed incredulous. During cold season, yes. Earth has seasonal patterns where cold viruses spread more easily. Children can get 8 to 10 colds per year while they're building up their immunity. Krixta watched Danny sneeze again. For most species, a viral infection was a serious medical event requiring immediate intervention. For humans, it was apparently such a minor inconvenience that they considered it barely worth mentioning. They built their immune systems by being constantly exposed to pathogens and fighting them off. We need to revise our quarantine protocols, Krixta said. If humans are regularly carrying and fighting off viral infections, we can't treat every case as an emergency. But we also need to protect other species who might not have immunity to human pathogens. That's a valid concern, Lisa agreed. Human respiratory viruses probably can't infect most alien species because the biology is too different. But we should test that assumption rather than risk an accidental cross-species outbreak. Over the next few days, they discovered that Danny's cold was indeed unable to infect any of the alien species on the station. The virus required human cellular machinery to reproduce, and alien cells were simply too different. This was a relief, but it raised new questions about other human pathogens. Peter and Krixta expanded the medical database to include detailed information about common human illnesses. The list was staggering. Hundreds of conditions that humans considered minor or routine were more severe than anything most species dealt with in their lifetimes. Your species lives in a constant state of biological warfare, Krixta observed one evening as they worked late in her office. I suppose we do, Peter agreed. We've never really thought about it that way. To us, getting sick occasionally is just part of life. Your immune system practices on minor threats so it's ready for major ones. That's another concept that's difficult for other species to understand. You view disease as practice for your immune system. In a way, yes. Children who are exposed to more germs actually develop stronger immune systems. Obviously, we don't want kids getting seriously sick. But normal exposure to everyday bacteria and viruses helps train the immune system to respond appropriately. Krixta pulled up a document about allergies. This is one of the more puzzling conditions. The immune system treats harmless substances as threats and attacks them. The emergency transmission arrived at Sanctuary 7 early in the morning cycle. Krixta was reviewing patient files when her communication panel lit up with urgent priority codes. She activated the display and saw the worried face of Governor Tholran of the Tarsus Prime Colony. Dr. Krixta, we need immediate medical assistance. We have an outbreak spreading through the colony. Multiple species are affected and our medical facilities are overwhelmed. People are dying. Krixta felt her circulatory system accelerate with alarm. What kind of outbreak? We don't know yet. The pathogen appeared 3 days ago. Initial symptoms include respiratory difficulty, high fever, and organ failure. The mortality rate is approaching 30%. It's spreading faster than we can contain it. I'll assemble a medical team immediately. Send us all available data on the pathogen. Within an hour, Krixta had gathered her best physicians and scientists. Lisa and Peter were there, along with Dr. Velnak and Dr. Thean. They reviewed the data from Tarsus Prime in grim silence. The pathogen was unlike anything in the Galactic Medical Database. It attacked multiple organ systems simultaneously and mutated rapidly, making treatment difficult. "This is a nightmare scenario," Dr. Thean said, her antennae drooping. "A novel pathogen that affects multiple species and mutates quickly. Traditional treatment protocols won't keep up with the mutations. We need to develop a broad-spectrum treatment that can adapt as the pathogen changes," Krixta said. "But that could take weeks or months. The colony doesn't have that much time." Peter had been studying the genetic structure of the pathogen with intense concentration. The mutation rate is high but not random. It's following predictable patterns, changing specific proteins to evade immune responses. This is similar to influenza viruses on Earth. "Can you explain that comparison?" Dr. Velnak asked. Influenza or flu is a respiratory virus that mutates seasonally. It changes just enough that previous immunity doesn't fully protect against new variants, but the core structure remains similar. Peter looked up from his display. "We developed a way to deal with this kind of pathogen." "How?" Krixta leaned forward. "Vaccines. We create immunity before exposure to the disease." Lisa understood immediately what Peter was suggesting. "You want to adapt our vaccine technology for the Tarsus Prime pathogen?" "It's our best option. If we can train immune systems to recognize the core structure of the pathogen, the mutations won't matter as much. The immune response will adapt along with the disease." Krixta looked between the two humans. "You mentioned vaccines during your presentation. You deliberately infect people with weakened versions of diseases, but this pathogen is too dangerous. Even a weakened version could kill someone." "We don't have to use a live pathogen," Peter explained. "We can create a vaccine using inactive viral particles or just the proteins that the immune system needs to recognize. The body learns to identify the threat without being exposed to a functional version of the disease." "But will this work for non-human species?" Dr. Thean asked. "Your vaccine technology is based on your aggressive immune systems. Our immune responses are much gentler." "That's the challenge," Lisa admitted. "We'll need to modify the approach for different species, but the basic principle should still work. We're teaching immune systems to recognize a specific threat. The mechanism might need adjustment, but the concept is sound." The debate went on for hours. Some doctors were intrigued by the possibility. Others were horrified at the idea of deliberately introducing disease material into healthy individuals. The concept went against everything the galactic medical community believed about prevention. Finally, Krixta made a decision. "We'll attempt it, but we need test subjects to verify the vaccine works and is safe for different species. We can't risk deploying an untested treatment to an entire colony." "I'll volunteer," said a voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Amy Rodriguez standing there. She was a human engineer who worked on the station's life support systems. She was short with muscular arms and bright red hair tied back in a practical ponytail. "Amy, you don't have to do this," Lisa said. "Yes, I do. You need to test the vaccine on humans first before adapting it for other species. You need to know it works and what side effects to expect." "I'm volunteering." Peter looked at her seriously. "You understand that we're creating a vaccine for an alien pathogen that has never existed on Earth? We have no idea how your immune system will react." "I understand, but people are dying on Tarsus Prime. If there's something I can do to help, I'm going to do it." Over the next 2 days, Peter and Lisa worked almost without rest to develop a vaccine. They used inactive proteins from the Tarsus Prime pathogen, combined with adjuvants, substances that would enhance the immune response. They calculated dosages and designed monitoring protocols. Every step was documented carefully. Krixta watched them work with a mixture of admiration and concern. They were attempting something that had never been done before, creating a vaccine for an alien disease to be used on alien patients. If it worked, it could save thousands of lives. If it failed, Amy might die, and they would have learned nothing useful. The test day arrived. Amy sat in the medical bay looking calm, while alien doctors surrounded her with monitoring equipment. Every major physician on the station was present to observe. Peter held the injector, a device designed to deliver the vaccine just under the skin. "Last chance to back out," Peter said quietly. "Give me the shot," Amy replied. Peter pressed the injector against Amy's upper arm. There was a soft hiss as the vaccine entered her body. The monitoring equipment immediately began tracking her response. For the first hour, nothing happened. Amy's vital signs remained normal. She sat reading a book while the medical staff watched every reading obsessively. Krixta found herself holding her breath, waiting for disaster. Then Amy's temperature began to rise. Just slightly at first, then more noticeably. Her white blood cell count increased. The monitoring equipment showed increased blood flow to the injection site. Amy rubbed her arm and winced. "How do you feel?" Lisa asked. "My arm is sore where you gave the shot, and I'm starting to feel a bit warm." Amy checked her own temperature with a hand scanner. Low-grade fever. 37.8 degrees. That's normal for a vaccine response. Normal? Dr. Velnak's colors showed alarm. Your immune system is activating against the vaccine. That's the point, Peter explained. We want the immune system to recognize the pathogen proteins and respond to them. The soreness and mild fever indicate the vaccine is working. Her body is learning to identify the threat. Over the next 12 hours, Amy experienced what she called typical vaccine side effects. Her temperature peaked at 38.2 degrees. She felt tired and achy. Her arm was sore and slightly swollen at the injection site. To the alien doctors, it looked like she was developing the disease they were trying to prevent. But Lisa and Peter remained calm, monitoring her carefully but showing no signs of concern. By the second day, Amy's fever had resolved. Her white blood cell count remained elevated but stable. Blood tests showed that her body was producing antibodies, proteins specifically designed to recognize and attack the Tarsus prime pathogen. It worked, Peter announced. Amy now has immunity to the pathogen without ever being exposed to an active infection. The implications were staggering. Krixta ran the blood tests 3 times to confirm. Amy's immune system had learned to recognize a completely alien disease that had never existed on Earth. If they exposed her to the actual pathogen now, her body would destroy it before it could cause infection. We need to test whether she's actually immune, Dr. Thien said. The antibodies are promising, but we need confirmation. No, Lisa said firmly. We're not going to deliberately infect Amy with a deadly pathogen just to prove a point. The antibody tests are sufficient. We know how human immune systems work. If she has the antibodies, she has the immunity. Instead, they focused on adapting the vaccine for other species. This proved more challenging. Species with gentler immune systems needed different formulations with stronger adjuvants to trigger adequate responses. Some species required multiple doses over several weeks, where humans needed only 1 or 2. The vaccine that gave Amy a mild fever for a day needed to be carefully calibrated for species that couldn't tolerate such aggressive responses. Dr. Velnak volunteered to test the Valerian version of the vaccine. His reaction was much milder than Amy's had been. His temperature rose only slightly and he experienced no discomfort. But blood tests confirmed that his body was producing antibodies, albeit more slowly than Amy's had. Over the next 2 weeks, they tested and refined vaccines for 7 different species. Each one required modifications, but the core principle worked for all of them. Immune systems could be taught to recognize specific threats, even if they had never encountered those threats before. The vaccines were shipped to Tarsus Prime. The medical teams there began administering them to the population, starting with those most at risk. The results were better than anyone had hoped. Vaccinated individuals who were later exposed to the pathogen either didn't get sick at all or experienced only mild symptoms. The mortality rate dropped from 30% to less than 2%. Within a month, the outbreak was contained. The news reached Sanctuary 7 through military channels. Krixta was in her office when Commander Sheltok of Station Security requested an urgent meeting. She had worked with the Krinian commander before, and knew he wasn't prone to unnecessary alarms. When he entered her office, his scaled face was tight with concern. We've received intelligence about a biological attack on the human colony at New Terra, Sheltok said without preamble. A criminal syndicate called the Razor Collective deployed a weaponized pathogen 2 days ago. They chose New Terra because the human population is relatively isolated, and they believed humans would be vulnerable to biological weapons. Krixta felt cold fear spread through her body. How many casualties? That's the strange part. Initial reports suggested widespread infection with severe symptoms. The Razor Collective was celebrating their success, but the latest reports are confusing. The human colonists are recovering. The death toll is minimal. That doesn't make sense. You said this was a weaponized pathogen designed specifically to be lethal. It was. The collective hired the best biological weapons designers in their organization. They created a pathogen that mutates rapidly to evade immune responses. It should have been devastating. Peter and Lisa were called to the meeting immediately. When they heard about the attack, their faces went pale, but they demanded all available medical data from New Terra. Krixta transmitted everything they had. Peter studied the genetic sequence of the pathogen. His expression grew darker as he read. This is sophisticated. Whoever designed this understood immunology at an advanced level. The mutation rate is deliberately accelerated. It's designed to stay one step ahead of standard immune responses. So why isn't it working? Sheltok asked. Because human immune systems don't have a standard response, Lisa said, looking at the infection data. This pathogen was probably designed based on observations of typical galactic species. But humans aren't typical. Over the next few days, they established a communication link with the medical team on New Terra. Dr. Helen Park, the colony's chief medical officer, looked exhausted but grimly satisfied when she appeared on the screen. We thought we were finished when the infection started spreading, Helen said. The initial wave hit hard. High fevers, respiratory distress, organ inflammation. It looked like the pathogen was overwhelming everyone's immune systems. But then, Krixta prompted, but then people started recovering. Not slowly either. Within 48 to 72 hours, most patients went from critically ill to recovering. Their immune systems adapted to the mutations faster than the pathogen could evolve new ones. Peter leaned forward. Tell us about the variation in patient responses. Were some people more resistant than others? Yes, actually. We have one security officer named Kevin Stone who barely got sick at all. He had mild symptoms for about 12 hours and then was fine. We tested his blood and found he had antibodies to dozens of variants of the pathogen. His immune system didn't just fight off the version he was infected with. It prepared defenses against versions he hadn't even encountered yet. This caught everyone's attention. Krixta pulled up Kevin's medical file. He was a 28-year-old human male with no remarkable medical history. Nothing about him suggested unusual immune function. How is that possible? Dr. Velnok asked. He had joined the meeting and was listening with fascination. Human immune systems are predictive, Lisa explained. When B cells create antibodies, they don't just make one version. They create millions of slightly different versions through a process called somatic hypermutation. The immune system basically makes educated guesses about what mutations a pathogen might develop and prepares for them in advance. You're saying his body predicted how the pathogen would mutate? Sheltok looked skeptical. Not exactly. His immune system created such a diverse array of antibodies that some of them happened to match future mutations. It's like casting a very wide net. Most of the antibodies might not be useful, but some will be effective against variants that don't even exist yet. Dr. Helen added more information. We've been studying the recovered patients. All of them show this pattern to varying degrees. Their immune systems overcompensated, producing far more antibody variants than necessary to fight the initial infection. It's incredibly wasteful from an energy perspective, but it means they're now protected against mutations they haven't encountered. Krixta thought about the implications. The Razor Collective had created a weapon designed to exploit the way most immune systems worked. They had assumed humans would follow the same patterns. But human immune systems didn't just respond to threats. They anticipated threats and prepared for possibilities that might never happen. The colonists are essentially immune to future attacks using this pathogen or its variants, Peter said. Their bodies have already solved the puzzle of how to defeat it. The military implications were significant, but Krixta was more interested in the medical aspects. She requested detailed blood samples from the New Terra colonists to study how their immune systems had adapted. What she found was remarkable. The antibodies in the recovered patient's blood were incredibly diverse. Each person had developed slightly different solutions to the same problem, reflecting the unique way their individual immune systems had responded to the threat. Kevin Stone's blood was particularly interesting. His antibody profile showed responses to at least 47 different theoretical variants of the pathogen. His immune system had essentially war-gamed the scenario, preparing for every possibility it could generate. This is adaptive immunity taken to an extreme, Krixta said, studying the data. His body didn't just remember this specific pathogen. It extrapolated from it to predict related threats. That's what human immune systems evolved to do, Lisa said. Pathogens on Earth mutate constantly. An immune system that could only remember exact matches would be useless. We needed systems that could recognize similarities and respond to variants. News of the failed bioweapon attack spread quickly through the galactic community. The Razor Collective had boasted about their plan before launching it, expecting it to demonstrate their power. Instead, it demonstrated human resilience. The reaction was mixed. Some species were impressed and relieved that humans could defend themselves against biological threats. Others were frightened by the implications. If humans could shrug off a sophisticated bioweapon designed specifically to kill them, what did that say about their biology? A delegation from the Galactic Security Council arrived at Sanctuary 7 to discuss the incident. They were worried about humans becoming targets for further attacks, but also about the broader implications of having such biologically robust beings joining the galactic community. Ambassador Trelvin, a dignified Valerian diplomat, met with Krixta and the human representatives. I need to understand the threat assessment here. Could humans become carriers of diseases that might not affect them, but could devastate other species? It's possible, but unlikely, Peter said carefully. Human pathogens are specifically adapted to human biology. Most of them can't infect other species because the cellular mechanisms are too different. We've tested this extensively since joining the galactic community. But you carry enormous microbial populations in your bodies, Trelvin pressed. Trillions of bacteria according to your medical data. How do we know those are safe? Because they've been living in harmony with humans for millions of years, Lisa explained. Our microbiome is adapted to us specifically. Those bacteria need human body chemistry to survive. They're not generalist pathogens that can jump to new hosts. Krixta added her professional opinion. We've been monitoring the situation closely. There have been no cross-species disease transmissions from humans to any other species on this station. Human biology is self-contained. Their pathogens need human cells to reproduce. The ambassador seemed only partially reassured. But this incident on New Terra demonstrates that humans can resist biological threats that would devastate most species. That creates an imbalance. It creates an opportunity, Krixta corrected. Human immune systems are extraordinary, yes, but that knowledge can benefit everyone. We're already using human vaccine technology to protect other species. Understanding how human immunity works helps us develop better treatments for everyone. After the delegation left, Kevin Stone arrived at the station for follow-up medical testing. He was a tall man with an easy smile and seemed bemused by all the attention his immune system was receiving. I just got sick and got better, Kevin said as Krixta took blood samples. I don't understand why everyone thinks it's such a big deal. Your immune system defeated a weapon designed by professional biological warfare experts, Krixta told him. It adapted faster than the weapon could evolve. That's extraordinary, Kevin shrugged. I mean, I felt pretty terrible for about a day. Fever, chills, body aches. Thought I was dying. But then I woke up the next morning feeling better, and after that I just kept improving. Same thing happened when I got the flu as a kid. That casual comparison struck Krixta. To Kevin, fighting off a sophisticated bioweapon was comparable to recovering from childhood illness. His frame of reference for disease was so different from hers that he couldn't understand why his recovery was noteworthy. Sophie Bennett sat in the examination room, swinging her legs impatiently while waiting for Dr. Krixta to finish preparing. She was a human engineer who maintained the station's environmental systems, known for her quick mind and quicker jokes. Today she was here for a routine checkup following a minor injury to her hand. So how long is this going to take? Sophie asked. I've got a plasma conduit that needs realignment in Section 7. Just a standard scan and some tissue samples from your injury site, Krixta assured her. 20 minutes at most. Krixta had performed dozens of these routine examinations on humans by now. She was comfortable with their vital signs and understood their healing processes. What should have been a simple procedure was about to turn into one of the most significant discoveries of her career. She ran the standard medical scanner over Sophie's hand where a sharp piece of metal had cut her 3 days earlier. The wound was healing well, new skin forming over the injury site. But something in the scan made Krixta pause. She adjusted the scanner to higher resolution and looked again. The wound site was teeming with bacteria. Sophie, have you been keeping your injury clean? Krixta asked. Of course. I wash it regularly and keep it covered when I'm working. Why? Krixta showed her the scan. There are significant bacterial populations in your wound. Sophie looked at the image and shrugged. That's normal. Skin has bacteria on it. Some of them actually help with healing. Help with healing? Krixta adjusted the scanner to analyze the bacteria more closely. They were indeed active in the wound, but they weren't causing infection. Instead, they seemed to be assisting the healing process. That made no sense. Yeah, the skin microbiome includes beneficial bacteria, Sophie explained. They help fight off harmful bacteria and support tissue repair. It's basic biology. Krixta felt the same sensation she had experienced when Jake first showed symptoms of his immune response. The feeling that everything she understood about medicine was about to be challenged again. Dr. Grant and Lisa need to see this, Krixta said. Within the hour, Peter and Lisa were in the examination room looking at Sophie's scan. Lisa didn't seem surprised by what she was seeing. You didn't know about the human microbiome? Lisa asked. I knew humans had some bacteria on their skin, Krixta said. All species do to some degree, but this scan shows organized bacterial communities that are integrated into the tissue healing process. That's not contamination. That's symbiosis. Peter pulled up a diagram on the display screen. It showed a human body outlined in blue with clouds of different colored dots covering nearly every surface. This is a rough map of the human microbiome. Each color represents different bacterial populations. We carry trillions of microorganisms on our skin, in our mouths, in our digestive systems, and in various other locations. Krixta stared at the image. The bacterial populations outnumbered the blue human cells. How is this possible? How are you not constantly fighting infections? Because most of these bacteria aren't harmful, Lisa explained. They're either neutral or beneficial. Many of them are essential for our survival. We can't digest certain foods without gut bacteria. We can't produce certain vitamins. Our immune systems don't fully develop without exposure to these microorganisms. You're not individuals, Krixta said slowly, the realization dawning. You're ecosystems. Each human is a walking colony of organisms living in balance. That's one way to look at it, Peter agreed. We prefer to think of it as a partnership. We provide the bacteria with a stable environment and nutrients. They provide us with various services in return. Sophie held up her bandaged hand. Like these guys helping my cut heal, they compete with harmful bacteria for space and resources, which helps prevent infection. Some of them even produce antimicrobial compounds. Krixta felt slightly dizzy. She sat down and tried to process this information. How did we miss this during the initial medical evaluations? Probably because you were looking for problems, Lisa said gently. The microbiome is normal for us. It's not a disease or a disorder. It's just how our bodies work. If you tested specifically for bacterial presence, you would have found it. But why would you test for something you assumed shouldn't be there? We've been treating humans for weeks, Krixta said. Have we been harming you? Most of our sterilization protocols are designed to eliminate bacteria. Peter and Lisa exchanged concerned glances. Show me your standard surgical preparation procedures, Peter said. Krixta pulled up the protocols. Peter's expression grew more worried as he read. These sterilization fields would destroy most surface bacteria. If you used these on human patients before surgery, you would have wiped out significant portions of their microbiome. But we haven't done any surgeries on humans yet, Krixta said, feeling relieved and horrified at the same time. We've been focusing on understanding your biology before attempting any invasive procedures. That's very fortunate, Lisa said seriously. Disrupting the microbiome can cause severe illness. Some of our bacteria are so important that losing them can lead to dangerous infections by opportunistic pathogens. Over the next week, Krixta and her team studied the human microbiome in detail. What they discovered was astounding. The bacterial populations varied from person to person, but followed general patterns. The gut microbiome was particularly complex, containing hundreds of species of bacteria that worked together to digest food and produce nutrients. Peter brought in a human colonist named Ryan Foster, who had recently arrived at the station. Ryan had been complaining of digestive problems and chronic fatigue. Standard medical scans showed nothing wrong with his organs or tissues, but when they analyzed his gut microbiome, the problem became clear. Your bacterial populations are severely depleted, Peter told Ryan. You're missing several key species that should be present in a healthy gut. How did that happen? Ryan asked. Have you been exposed to strong sterilization fields recently? Yeah, actually. When I first arrived at the station, I went through the standard decontamination procedure for new colonists. They said it was to prevent introducing any harmful organisms to the station environment. Krixta felt a wave of guilt. The decontamination procedures were designed for species that didn't rely on symbiotic bacteria. They had inadvertently harmed Ryan by treating him like any other species. We can fix this, Lisa assured Ryan. We'll need to reintroduce the missing bacteria. It's called fecal microbiota transplantation, though there are easier methods using cultured bacterial preparations. Ryan looked uncertain. You're going to give me someone else's bacteria? Not just anyone's. We'll use samples from healthy human donors with robust microbiomes. Your gut will be repopulated with the bacteria you need. The treatment worked remarkably well. Within 2 weeks, Ryan's digestive problems had resolved and his energy levels returned to normal. His body had welcomed back the bacterial populations it needed, and the ecosystem in his gut had rebalanced itself. News of the microbiome. Discovery sent shockwaves through the medical community. Dr. Velnok called another conference to discuss the implications. Humans are not individuals in the way we understand individuality, he announced to the assembled doctors. They are composite organisms dependent on trillions of other life forms for their health and survival. It's not just humans, Peter pointed out. Most species probably have some form of microbiome, even if it's less extensive than ours. You should check your own bacterial populations. You might be surprised. This suggestion led to a fascinating discovery. Every species tested had some bacterial presence, but nothing approaching the complexity and integration of the human microbiome. Most species had simple bacterial populations that were tolerated rather than integrated. Humans had evolved a deep interdependence with their microorganisms. Dr. Thien was particularly disturbed by the gut-brain connection that Lisa described. You're saying that bacteria in your digestive system can affect your emotions and thoughts? They produce neurotransmitters that influence brain function, Lisa confirmed. The gut microbiome communicates with the brain through multiple pathways. It's why digestive problems can cause mood changes and why stress can cause digestive issues. The systems are connected. This is deeply unsettling, Dr. Thien said. The idea that microscopic organisms can influence cognition challenges our understanding of consciousness and free will. Or it expands our understanding, Peter suggested. Humans aren't separate from nature. We're part of it, integrated with it at the most fundamental level. Our bacteria are as much a part of us as our own cells. Krixta thought about all the humans she had treated. Every one of them was hosting vast populations of bacteria that she had never considered. They were walking ecosystems, maintaining balance between trillions of organisms while going about their daily lives. Sophie returned for a follow-up examination. Her hand had healed completely, thanks in part to the bacterial populations that had assisted the process. She flexed her fingers and grinned. Good as new. Thanks, Doc. Thank your bacteria as well, Krixta said. They did half the work, Sophie laughed. I'll be sure to thank them. Though I don't think they can hear me. After Sophie left, Krixta updated the medical database with comprehensive information about the human microbiome. She included 6 months had passed since Jake Morrison first walked into the medical bay, with a simple infection that had changed everything. Sanctuary 7 looked the same on the outside, but inside the medical department had been transformed. The examination halls now had sections specifically designed for human biology. Medical equipment had been recalibrated to account for human baseline readings. Most importantly, the staff had learned to see humans not as fragile newcomers but as remarkably resilient beings with biological systems unlike anything else in the Galaxia Krixta stood in her office preparing for the most important presentation of her career. In 2 hours, she would address the Galactic Medical Council and present her comprehensive research on human biology. The findings would be distributed to medical facilities across known space, establishing new protocols for treating human patients and opening possibilities for cross-species medical advancement. Lisa entered carrying 2 cups of coffee. It had become their morning ritual during these intense months of collaboration. Are you nervous? She asked, handing Krixta her cup. Terrified, Krixta admitted. I'm about to tell the most prestigious medical body in the galaxy that much of what we thought we knew about biology needs to be revised. You've done the work. The data speaks for itself. Data can be frightening when it challenges fundamental assumptions. Krixta took a sip of the coffee, which she had learned to appreciate despite its bitterness. 6 months ago, I thought humans would be easy to treat. Just another species with standard biological needs. Now I understand that you're the most complex patients I'll ever encounter. Peter joined them, looking at the presentation slides on the display. You've structured this well. Starting with Jake's immune response, moving through the vaccine development, the bioweapon incident, and the microbiome,